That was amazing, so thank you so much, Erica. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here to just be here with you this morning. Did you know that speaking at Seattle Unity has been on my ministerial bucket list? Woo! It's true, it's true. 12 and a half years ago, I was thinking of putting my name in to be the minister at Unity of Yakima. I'd done some guest speaking there, but I didn't know all that much about what Unity people believed, having been a Presbyterian minister for almost 25 years at that point. So someone suggested that I go exploring, attend a Unity service or two. So I came over here from Yakima to Seattle Unity, and I was so impressed. Back then, Richard spoke, Karen prayed, the music lifted me, the altars on both sides opened my heart, and even the little yellow squeezy Buddha that I got as a visitor. Did any of you get that? A Seattle Buddha that had a mobile phone in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other. It made me smile and it piqued my curiosity. How's that fit in here? Well, I went back to Yakima and I put my application in, and I was chosen as the spiritual leader for Unity Spiritual Life Center of Yakima. That was in July of 2005. And in 2007, Reverend Karen became my mentor for the field licensing program in order for me to be ordained. And then in April of 2010, Karen came over and did ordain me as a Unity minister. And so coming back here is just thrilling to me. It's like coming full circle. Thank you, Seattle Unity. I have a story to tell you, and you'll probably recognize it. It comes, this version, from my beloved fairy tale book that I was given when I was 6 years old. And it's copyright. I looked with all the X's and the V's and the L's and stuff. I think it says 1950. So it might be a little bit different from the Golden Book copy. Once upon a time, there was a girl by the name of Goldilocks. And she had golden hair and lovely blue eyes and no boundaries. Isn't that how you got the story? In fact, she was going through life in a constant search for whatever might be just right for her. And her neighbors had stopped opening their doors to her when she knocked on their doors, because she'd open all their cupboards and take whatever looked good. So one day, Goldilocks went for a walk deep into the woods, and she came upon a little cottage that, as she peeked in the windows, she couldn't resist, she discovered belonged to 3 bears. All right, and pretty soon, the 3 bears decided to go out for a little walk in the woods. So Goldilocks crept up to the door, and she turned the knob, and she walked right in. And the first thing that she saw were 3 chairs. So she'd been walking a while. She thought she'd just sit down for a bit. The first chair was a great big one, and she sat down in it, and it was too hard. It was hard. Then she went to the middle-sized one, and it was too soft. But then she saw this cute little one, and she went over and sat in it, and it broke all to pieces. Enough of that. So then she noticed that on the table by the kitchen, there were 3 bowls of porridge. There was a great big bowl. When she tried that, it was too hot. When she went to the medium-sized one, it was too salty. But when she got to the little one, it was just right. You got it. And so she ate it all up. Nom, nom, nom. And then she was sleepy after that bowl of porridge, and so she decided to look for a place to lay down. So she went upstairs, and there were the beds. And of course, there was the great big bed, and it was too hard. And then she went to the middle-sized one, and it was too soft. But when she got to the little one, it was just right. And so she laid down and fell asleep. Well, in the meantime, the bears came home from their walk, and as soon as they got into their cottage, they knew that something wasn't right. "Who's been sitting in my chair?" growled Papa Bear. "Well, who's been sitting in my chair?" asked Mama Bear. "Somebody sat in my chair and broke it all to pieces," wailed the baby bear. And the same thing happened with the porridge. And the same thing happened when they went upstairs and discovered not only had somebody been in each bed, but there she was in Baby Bear's bed right then and there. And so they leaned over the bed and they all growled at one time. Goldilocks' blue eyes flew open, and she was out of there as faster than you could say 3 bears. She got the heck out of there. And word around town is that no longer does Goldilocks get into anybody's cupboards unless she's invited. I've been trying to think why this story kept coming up for me. And what am I supposed to tell Seattle Unity about the 3 bears? And I think it has something to do with those words, just right. Do you ever find yourself more wound up than you'd like to be in trying to bring forth into your life whatever it is that you think would make it just right? I've seen it in individuals, I've seen it in myself, and I've also seen it in congregations. As the regional representative and also a ministry skills consultant in training, I've had an opportunity to do board trainings with several different Unity communities since January. And one thing that we know is a constant in our lives and in churches is change. It's always going to be changing. Things will always be changing. And yet oftentimes the changes as they come don't seem to be the way we wanted them to be. And life doesn't look or feel just right anymore. And churches and individuals sometimes suffer because of this. And sometimes that suffering comes out in blaming and conflict. And that's when we need a way to back away for a bigger picture of what might be just right. What do we do when the chair is broken, meaning things aren't working the way they used to? What do we do when the porridge is gone? Or maybe we're not meeting the budget the way we used to. What do we do when 3 angry bears want everything to be put back the way it was? Could it be a good time for us to let go of our need to have everything just right? Maybe it's time to move inward as we begin to move forward. As I continued to reflect on this story, the words to an old spiritual came to me. Some of you may have sung it at camp. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Melt me, mold me, fill me, use me. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. And it came to me that maybe this song gives us a way forward, a way to get out of the trap of trying so hard to make everything the way we want it to be. And the more I meditated on these words, the more I could see that spiritual path unfolding before us. So let's do a little metaphysical interpretation of this song. The first thing that we want to remind ourselves of is that the Spirit of the living God is not something or someone that is just out there making us do things. The Spirit lives within us, as us. It is the breath of life breathing through us in every moment. It is our highest self in unity with all that is. And when the Spirit falls on us, think of it like taking a breath of fresh air. Have you ever found yourself in a scary situation where unconsciously you were holding your breath? And suddenly you remember to breathe again. That's the Spirit of the living God in us, as us. And when we become conscious of this life flowing in and through us, there is such love in it that it seems like our hearts melt. Whatever has become hardened in us, we allow to simply melt into the flow. I don't know about you, though. I do resist that whole melting thing. Maybe it was because of the Wizard of Oz. Am I going to be like the Wicked Witch, just disappear? Well, here's what might at least fade into the background, if not disappear entirely. It is that egocentric part of us that insists on its own way, and that we are the only ones who are right, and if everyone would just listen to us, everything would be great. I think that maybe the melting is more like melting gold, and all the impurities melt away, and the essence remains. So what does it feel like to let your old self melt away? Back in 1997, I said goodbye to a Presbyterian congregation I had served for 9 years. And they loved me and I loved them, but I still felt like I needed to leave. We had done really good work together, but I was burned out. And my theology had changed. I believed in a God who was beyond any one faith tradition, so it's what I love about all these altars. I always knew that God was more, and I needed to be able to speak about that and live that in my life. My husband at the time, he didn't want me to move. My son, who was just starting high school, he didn't want me to either. But I was sure that I needed to. The church gave me a party and they gave me a lovely gold watch. For crying out loud, I wasn't retired, I was just 45 years old. But it was confusing to all of us. And so for the next 8 years, I called myself a Presbyterian on the loose. Made the people in my presbytery kind of nervous. But that's okay. I became an interim minister, I became a spiritual director, a labyrinth facilitator, a retreat leader, and I said that no way would I ever be a congregational minister again. Ha, you say. You know the universe doesn't hear no way and never the way that we think it will. The universe feels our intense energy around this and says, congregational ministry, all right. And that's how I became the minister at Unity of Yakima. Melt me, mold me. I began to set new intentions for my life. I began to learn about affirmative prayer, praying, knowing that the best is already done. I began to see myself being in ministry in a new way, with more authenticity, not having to do everything right all the time. I loved what happened with the music. Stuff like that happens at Yakima all the time, and half the time it's me who did it. I began to be a student of metaphysics, a new thought thinker. I began to be a unity minister. My life was taking a new form, and the Spirit has filled me in ways that I never could have predicted. Opportunities, relationships, challenges. Yes, life is full, and my heart overflows with gratitude. And the more I learn, the more I want to share, and the more I'm willing to share, to let myself be used by Spirit, the more I am filled, until I can't always separate when I'm being filled and when I'm sharing, because they're happening all at the same time. Melt me, mold me, fill me, use me. Beloveds here at Seattle Unity, I know that you are in the midst of great changes as you prepare to let this familiar place, this facility that you've lived in for all these years, be transformed. So when you start to panic, when you feel like nothing is quite right anymore, don't forget to breathe. In the quietness of your own hearts, let the Spirit of the living God minister to your spirits. Allow yourselves individually and as a community to be melted, molded, filled, and used by God. And you will discover that everything is just right. Remember that Shaker song? 'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. We don't have to force our way into making everything just right. It's already there, waiting for us. When we breathe and come back round to who we really are, one with God, one with the divine goodness of all that is. Everything falls into place, just right. And oh, the joy and the delight. Blessed be.